Okay, this is a little recap of our design process from last year. I have applied to do a presentation at the 2056 Ways conference that 2056 hosts in the end of September. The topic is the robot in 2 days project that we did, where we converted a robot for provincials. So as part of the preparation for that, if I do end up presenting it, is going back and looking at our design philosophy from this year and our performance. And in the process of doing that, uh, it turns out that we actually did accomplish a lot of what we set out to do with our robot this year. And I'm just going to go through some numbers right now to show you what I mean by that. So you may remember this PowerPoint from back in the first week of January. This is what we put together to come up with our strategy decisions on what we want to try to build. Uh, so I've added a couple slides here after the fact. It's always fun to go back and look at what we thought of at the time, what we got right, what we didn't get right. But you can kind of see what we got right and what we got wrong with this. So the basic question we asked at the beginning of the year was, what is the best team in Ontario going to do? And we knew it was going to be 2056. We're trying to figure out what were they going to do. So we based a lot of this on past performance, and we said that the best 10 teams in Ontario, because our goal was to be, if we want to be in the running at provincials, you need to be around the top 10, like that, about 10th place or so. That's where you want to kind of design to. So that typically, if we look at 2024, you need to be capable of going about 50 or 55% of what the best team does. So if you look at the top 10 teams there, 2056 leads the way. You got all these other teams there. About the 50% mark puts you right around 10th place. Going back to 2023, about the same thing. You can see 4903. Uh, that was us there. We were just outside the top 10. In 2024, we were nowhere near. We were way back here. 2022, we were also nowhere near. This is kind of a weird year because there's not as many teams because of COVID. 2019, we're actually in the top 10 right here. But you can see there's a pretty big gap here. It's pretty sparse. So that's the decision we made there. So we said we want to be capable of doing about 50 to 60% of what 2056 is capable of. And based on the 23 game, which we said was a good comparator for cycle times, we said they could do cycle times of about 6 to 10 seconds per cycle. And then we said our target should be about 12 to 20-second cycle times. That would be about 7 to 11 pieces per match. So that is basically what we decided on there at our point of design. Now, what was right about that and what was wrong? So as it turns out, 50 to 60% of what they were capable of was not good enough, and we'll show that in a minute. We would have needed to be more like about 70% of what they were capable of. We said their cycle time is going to be somewhere about 6 to 10 seconds. We did not understand how fast teams were going to go this year. Their actual time was more like about 5 seconds. So we were kind of on the edge of that, but they were faster than our best estimates. So we said we were estimating they could do about 20 pieces per match. They were actually doing almost 27 per match. So they were up quite a bit from that. And basically by this, we said we needed to do 12 second cycles or 7 pieces per match. Realistically, we would have needed to be more like 7 seconds and 18 pieces per match to be where we needed to be. And that was more like the numbers that 2200 or 1114 were actually cycling at. So the way Reefscape actually played out, the top 10 were up here. Okay. So that is more like about 70% of what they could do. So like the top 30% in scoring, 30th percentile in scoring, get you into the top 10. What we said we're going to design to is actually way down here. And there's a lot of teams that were up above that. And then we were actually right here. So we were just under what we tried to design to. So not too bad there, where we said we need to design to this level here. And we were actually pretty close to that. So that's actually pretty good. But the problem is there's so many teams that were better than that. That's what we really didn't anticipate, is that there was so many teams that were better than what we thought they would be. So our own performance, we got close to what we asked for. We asked to be here. We built a robot that was capable of this, not too far off, but what we thought was that this would put us in top 10, and it was actually, we needed to be up here to be in top 10. So that was a bad miss on what we estimated. We underestimated how good the rest of the Ontario teams were going to be this year. That is the one big miss that we had. So if you want to look at that year to year, you can see how sparse this is in here. You got 2056 out here. You got the big group of teams back here. Not many people in the middle. Not many people in the middle. Almost nobody in the middle here. Not many in the middle here. But then this year, all these teams in the middle. There was a big group of teams in this middle section here. And that is what we did not anticipate. And the problem is when we get to provincials, these are all the teams that are making up the first and second picks on the alliances at provincials. So this makes us not a playoff team at provincials. That makes us a third robot at provincials because we did not anticipate this many teams being out here. We were thinking it was going to be more like this many teams out here. So that is where we kind of underestimated how good teams were going to be. Now, when we looked at things, this is the way we broke things down. We thought this is how fast we could go. With this type of accuracy, we thought 90% scoring on L1. We're actually way better than that on L1. 70% on L4. In the end, we were actually better than that on L4. And about those cycle times, we actually exceeded these numbers. We did better than this in both accuracy and cycle. And we calculated, hey, we could probably do 11 L1 cycles for this many points. We actually exceeded that in capability. We had matches at provincials where we did more than 11, and we scored, we actually successfully scored 11 and got more points than that. Some different things here, and we never even anticipated doing net. So we came up with these goals here. Some of these assumptions we made. Defense will be capable of shutting down an entire human station. That was pretty accurate. Shutting down the processor, that was probably accurate. I don't think we ever saw that actually happen, but that was probably accurate. Always a partner who could clear algae from the reef. I think that was probably pretty accurate. Human players will score 70% of their shots. It was probably more like 90 to 95% of their shots. That was way higher than there. Cooperation will be more common than not. I think cooperation was pretty rare, actually. Until you got to the higher levels, like provincials, it was pretty common because people really needed the point. But for the lower events, it was pretty rare. Then our goals that we asked for. So the general takeaway here is we actually did pretty well. I went back and looked at all the matches. Newmarket, This is what we scored. Total game pieces scored, and then total pieces that we picked up. So you can see here, we actually missed a lot of pieces. So like we picked up and handled 4 pieces, we only scored 1 of them. We picked up and handled 7, scored 5. This one was 7 for 7. 4 out of 9, not good. So we were missing a lot of pieces. So either we were dropping them, we would have a piece at the end of the match that we never scored, or we just tried to place it and it didn't go in. Like 50% success on our L1 scoring. We failed a couple on L4 and we just stopped trying it on the auto and some of that. One thing it is kind of cool, we scored the first L4 in Ontario this year. We played in match number 1 of week 1 and we scored an L4 about a second ahead of a team on the other side. So we actually scored the first L1 scored in an Ontario match this year. So that's kind of cool for us. We got better at Windsor. So the total, we had the weird matches. So we beached on the algae and tipped over. Coral stuck under the elevator. Coral stuck under the elevator. This one we were intending to do L1s, and then the L1 mechanism broke. And we switched over to doing L2s and 3s. Still did 5 of those. But we got our numbers up. So you can see our goal that we said we want to be able to score 7 pieces in a match. We were scoring 6.6 pieces if you eliminate this, this, and this one. So we were scoring 7 pieces in a match in Windsor. So that was pretty good. So that's where we actually had the Ottawa line. We were scoring in Newmarket 4.7 without any kind of auto alignment. So no camera, 4.7. Here, we were handling more pieces, so we were faster, and we were more accurately scoring them as well. So our total number of cycles in range with what we asked our designers to give us, and the number of scoring is in line with what we actually asked the designers to give us. So we were actually performing to the level that we asked for a robot to be capable of. The problem is that that is not good enough for how good the field was. And that's basically what we ran into this year. At provincials, so you can see our EPA over this first couple events kept on improving as we went. And then at provincials, we averaged 9.1 pieces of a variety of types. First couple, all we did was L1s. Then we did a bunch where we had net algae and L1s. Then we switched over to the ground pickup. We scored 3 in the processor, 6 L1s, and then 10 L1s in that last one here. But here we were doing 9 pieces scored, very consistent as well. High of 11, low of 6, and we were handling 10 pieces in a match. So pretty good numbers by the end of the year. So that is as good or exceeding what we had asked for robot capability. Unfortunately, it was just not good enough to be competitive with how competitive the field was. But from looking at it, good, and like that's very competitive. And then when you look, we were the second best L1 scorer at provincials. They were an L1 specialist. That's all they did. They were ahead of us, but everyone else, we were scoring more L1s than anyone. And even 8.45, this is calculated, but 8.45 pieces total, that was 33rd best. And you can see up here, 27, 26, 23, where we thought the bar was going to be was way higher. Like to be in the top 12, we would have had to be doing 13 pieces a match. So that was more than we were picking up. So that's the story of this year. So actually came out pretty well. Design team did a good job of giving us what we actually asked for. We just did not ask for enough. It looks like the way we underestimated how good we needed to be. And that's kind of the story of the year.